Welcome to CXWise, where we share wisdom, insights, stories, and expertise from the world of customer experience. I'm your host, Nate Bennett, and you're about to hear real-world experiences and practical advice that will elevate your CX game no matter your title and no matter your industry. So, without further ado, let's get wise. My guest today is a leading voice in customer experience strategy, Justin Robbins. For over 2 decades, Justin has explored how human connection and technology shape customer interactions and business outcomes. From cold calling neighbors at age 12 to leading global CX initiatives, his journey has been rooted in trust, persistence, and impact. He's held leadership roles at ICMI and HDI, consulted thousands of CX professionals, and now leads Metric Sherpa as founder and principal analyst. His latest report, the CX Confidence Disconnect, commissioned by Sprinklr, reveals 10 critical reality gaps between brand perception and customer experience. The findings show trust is no longer assumed. It must be earned and measured. From AI missteps to broken promises, the report warns of hidden churn and eroded brand equity, but also offers a clear path forward. Align promises with delivery, rebuild trust, and meet customers where they are. I can't wait to dive into this report. Justin, welcome. Thanks for being here, man.
Nate, thanks for having me. I have to be honest, I thought about something for the very first time
What's that?
when you were talking about that. Does prank calling count as cold calling?
It does in this context, yes. Now, did you earn any money from the prank calls?
I didn't, but I was like, wait, it's like I think that could have qualified. So maybe even I started even earlier.
I think it does. What was your go-to prank call? Was it like, is your refrigerator running?
Oh no,
That was a classic one.
we would call businesses. My brother's actually gotten some hot water over some of their prank calls.
Wow. Okay. So, the law was involved.
No, but this was legitimate at 12. It was legitimate cold calling. But what I loved about it is you figure out what's happening in a young boy's life about that age. So depending on the moment, I might have had a very high pitch. I might have had a low pitch. It's like if you didn't answer, I'd just try calling back because my voice would be very different.
So, what were you cold calling for at that point?
It was newspaper subscriptions.
Yeah.
So I was a paper carrier. And they said one day, hey, do you want to earn some extra money? I'm thinking, yeah, of course, I'm like saving up for that sick bicycle. And so we went in, we had a giant stack of dot matrix printer paper with the name, address, and phone number of everybody in our town. And we literally interrupted dinner times asking them, it's like, hi, I'm Justin. I'm your local paper carrier.
That was adorable.
You're not subscribed today for the low price. And we did. And oh my goodness, man, it was a refining experience.
That's amazing. Now, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
What if 12-year-old Justin was doing the same thing today with all the technology that's at a 12-year-old's fingertips? What would have changed in your approach?
I don't know that I would have showed up. I would have probably figured out an auto dialer and AI, just like persistent.
You know what? I think you would have missed out on the human touch. I bet it was the adorableness of a 12-year-old Justin that kept people subscribing, and they were like okay with having their dinner interrupted.
That's yes.
I would imagine.
That's yes.
All right, let's get into this, man. You've been in the CX space for over 2 decades, starting at 12. What's one early experience that still shapes how you think about customer service today?
Yeah, so I actually want to go back to the paper route and carry from there. So I jumped from there into hospitality and was even working front desk at hotels through high school. And one of the things I remember every morning when we got our delivery of papers, you also got all of these new subscriptions. You maybe had adjustments, but you also have different notes. So it's Nate's going on vacation and he'd love for you to hold the papers for a few days, or Susan really prefers to have it placed between her screen doors. You'd have all of these just things that people would hope and want. And what I realized quickly was you pay attention to those things and positive outcomes, feedback, tips followed, and recognize 2 things. One, I would get explicit feedback from people that just like, thank you for acknowledging this and doing what I asked. And I learned quickly that most prior paper carriers never took the time to do that. They didn't care. They rolled it up and they just like slammed it at the door.
Yeah.
Which, if you've ever read a newspaper, you roll it up, it's hard to read,
Right.
It's problematic. But that little attention to detail mattered to them. Not only, it actually created a problem for me because I had a route they were neighbors. And so they would say, hey, Justin's doing this. And so then I start to get a ton of requests, and it actually took longer in the morning to get papers ready. It took longer to deliver the papers to meet their preferences. But I'll tell you what, when it came time for the holidays, or they took care of me. I would have sometimes they would be waiting up with like a hot chocolate or whatever,
Oh,
and they
that's
just
great.
little attention to those things mattered. And so then when I stepped into hospitality, and even since then, it's recognizing that even when we go to massive scale, if we can find ways to hone in, acknowledge, and appreciate what our customers are wanting and needing and asking from us, it can create incredible advantage.
For sure. I love that you were hyper personalization, even at a young age. The problem was it was hard to scale for you.
Incredibly hard to scale. I mean,
Okay.
honestly, part of it was I was getting, even from the paper, they were asking me to take on more and more and more, and I was like wrangled my brothers into it. It's like, "Hey guys, like I can't get to all of these houses before the school day starts."
Man, you created a staff. You had to have a staff.
I dropped away from my empire, Nate. I'm realizing now there's so many missteps
Oh
I've
man,
totally made.
the places you could have gone if you'd only stayed on that path.
Ah,
That's
'cause
all right. It's okay. We'll get you back
it's
on
fine.
track.
It's
Don't worry.
fine.
So you speak a lot about the intersection of CX and technology, and I'm wondering what excites you most about how AI is reshaping customer interactions, and maybe like what also worries you a little bit.
Yeah, if I think about what is still problematic in most customer experiences today, it really, to me, I think, comes down to two things. One, blind spots. They're everywhere in our businesses, and they are the result of disconnected systems and teams and processes. And internally, we often know that as businesses, but as consumers, we feel that friction everywhere. Employees get frustrated all the time. Service failures are a result of that. And so one of the first things that gets exciting for me about the intersection of customer experience and what's happening with technology and the innovation and even what AI can enable, I really do see it as starting to creep into and eliminate more and more of those blind spots, not just providing visibility, but helping us actually see where does this fit together. One of the ways I often describe it, if you've ever done one of those puzzles where it doesn't have a picture, it's just the pieces. It's
It's insane.
it's all there.
Yeah,
It's all there, but it's really hard to put it together. That to me is my belief of how CX is today. All the pieces are there, but we've had a hard time putting it together. That's the opportunity if we see it that way, if we have the right vision and strategy. My concern is actually rooted in much of the same advantage I think can become a disadvantage without vision and strategy and true understanding. Because we have incredible technical capability, I think we'll over index on the impact and the value that that can provide and lose sight of what's always made experiences magical. And that's the humans who are able to show up and understand and deliver impact in ways that we maybe can't easily calculate or quantify the value of. And so that's my concern. We over-index on efficiency and process improvement, and the things that actually make experiences stand out can disappear. Now, do I think that there will be incredible consequence of that? Without a doubt.
sure. I've been waiting to look into or dive into this report that has just released as of today, as we're recording. And I'm so excited. And I wonder if you could give us a little bit of context about how the report came to be, was commissioned by Sprinkler in partnership with Sprinkler, and kind of give me a little bit of the genesis of the origin of the report.
So if I think about where the moment in time that we're at right now, I would say that the capability of technology has never been greater. I would say that the marketing and the lip service around the importance of customer experience has never been more widely shared. And I'd even say that the want and desire of customers to be able to help themselves and have the answers to their questions and to explore and experience more, like everything is seemingly moving in the right direction. And yet, we look at consumer indexes, we look at just like general consumer climates, and things are moving, it feels like, in the wrong direction. So why at a time when it seems like we are more capable than ever, are we still falling short? That question has really been bothering me. And as we at Metric Sherpa were thinking about it and having a conversation with the team at Sprinkler, it's like, what could be the root of this? And part of our hypothesis was brands just maybe are not really tuned into what consumers really want, think, believe, trust, look to in their experiences. And so let's figure out, is that the case? And if so, that's not new. What do we need to actually do to do something about it, to drive change, to drive impact?
The Metric Sherpa report, again, as I said in my intro, the CX confidence disconnect, and it outlines 10 key gaps between what leaders think and what consumers actually feel. And I'm wondering, which one of those gaps do you think brands are most likely to overlook, and what's the risk if they don't address it?
Yeah, the biggest gap that jumped out was what we ended up identifying as the trust gap. Majority, I want to say it's 86% of businesses said that, yeah, we think by and large our customers trust us. They're relying on us. We're going to do what they say we're going to do. And then when we went to consumers, it was less than half, 44%, I think, of customers agreed and said that, yeah, they trust brands to deliver on their promises. For me, as I watch, what is this actually played out? I mean, brands are under investing in reliability and consistency. I mean, we've all had experiences where it's like, it shouldn't be that hard. And every single one of us, just think back to the last time you're like, why was it that difficult? Why was it that confusing? Why can't we just get what we need to get to? Brands know about that. I ask leaders all the time, do you know the number one thing that's unnerving your customers? Yeah, we do. So why haven't you done anything about it? Right. And it often comes down to that underinvestment. I think the other kind of part of that is this idea of trust. I don't know that businesses are thinking or quantifying it as an actual business KPI today. What does it actually mean to look for, identify, and go after things that are disintegrating trust with the people that we're serving every day?
Mm. And how to rebuild that trust, I think, is key. Like, how do we, when you have somebody in your life that sort of betrays your trust, what do we do to repair that?
Yeah, I think I agree with that, Nate. But I think, from the research and from my experience, here's the problem with that thinking. It immediately puts us into recovery and reactive mode, which is for most people in service jobs or in CX more broadly are living in a state of reactivity. They're looking at metrics that are reflective, and they're like, oh, coulda, shoulda, woulda, and that's it. How do we fix it? How do we go back? Our research showed that for a lot of customers, you may never get that chance. Now, of course, there's been other research that, hey, if Nate has a problem and we make it better, he's more loyal. I get that, but that's assuming a big if. And so I think the challenge for us, as I think about engineering trust, being intentional about building, defining, creating trust, how can we be proactive as brands to ensure that we never have to worry about recovery? Because you're right, we need to have a plan for when we break trust, but we can't be thinking about that first. First is, how are we predictive and proactive in designing trust as part of everything that we do as a brand?
Can you talk a little bit about the generational divide? The report does highlight the divide in how people engage with AI specifically. So, how should customer experience platforms evolve to meet the needs of both digital natives and more traditional users, say?
Yeah, so here was one thing that took me by surprise a little bit, and Nate, I'm probably against most studies that paint any picture of ageism.
Sure.
And what was interesting to me first and foremost is to recognize across all generational groups, overall trust and belief in AI is low. You've got really low and somewhat less low is kind of it. What were some of the things that were fascinating to me in these groups actually came out in even some of the verbatims, and with younger generations, clear lines that are showing the importance of immediacy and instant gratification. That was loud and clear to me. The older cohorts, I in the report, I think I ended up calling it like resigned tolerance or something on the, because they would talk, they're like, they've been conditioned and beaten down and just expecting it to be awful. And so that was really interesting to me in terms of like what their overall perception was, that they'll wait if it gets it screwed up, they'll wait until they can get to a human if AI is not getting it. But for younger generations, much more instant. I think the other thing that we also saw was the desire for transparency in older generations.
Sure.
The younger groups have certainly been conditioned to experience AI in many facets of how they're already thinking and doing. I mean, we even went to the point of, how are they searching the internet, or like, are they embracing AI technologies. And in younger generations, we were with older generations. If they are, they need incredible transparency and visibility into how it's thinking, what's actually driving the information that's being provided. The need for trust in sources is significant as we look at the older generations in the study.
Well, let's talk about some AI missteps. So there's a clear mismatch between how ready leaders think customers are for AI and how some customers actually feel. What's your advice for brands trying to balance automation with empathy?
Yeah, Nate. So the first thing that I would call out is usage does not equal trust. When we looked at the groups that were really, I mean, I would say pushing the boundaries in terms of how they think and want and are applying artificial intelligence to all aspects of what they do, they still expressed heavy skepticism. And so there's broadly certainly an interest and desire to self-serve, to see things automated, and a universal acknowledgement that artificial intelligence will be playing a role in that. And so I'd say, hey, even though you may see people using things, don't misplace that as they trust it. We don't need to worry about the details because they're using it. The details still matter to build trust with them. What does that mean in terms of what do you do? How do you action that? Some of the places where trust and willingness and interest was the highest, I would say, are very low risk use cases. If you're watching this and you work in financial services, I'm just going to tell you right now, anytime that money was involved in AI, the findings tanked in terms of how people feel about that. But even things in terms of like simple FAQs, there's still just this. I don't know if I can really believe it. When I try to quantify that further, people would say, "Hey, look, I got burned by a chatbot," right? Things that were very simple, like that screwed it up. I don't think this is going to be any smarter. Right now, I'm taking some liberty on expressing how people quantify that, but that was it. So for me, what is the number one rule? Always disclose that AI is being used. First and foremost, that again, loud and clear signal that matters a lot to people. The other thing that mattered a lot is then the seamless escalation to humans in the moments where that needs to happen. Those to me, there's again a lot that we probably should do here, but we need to be transparent and we have to make it really, really easy to get to people throughout the service experience.
100%.
Yeah, yeah, Nate, and when I'm talking to business leaders about this, I describe it as compounding Fs. And the first, seriously, there's probably a fourth F we'll add in here then, but it really starts with those moments of friction. And those moments of friction in our business inevitably lead to either customer or employee frustration. And when you have friction that starts compounding with somebody who's getting frustrated, you're inevitably on a path to failure, right? After that, you probably throw on the fourth F.
This then comes the
Then
fourth F.
comes the
Yeah.
fourth F. But that to me is the thing that if I was a business leader today, I would be obsessed over finding one at a time what are these bits of friction. And I know that if we can address friction, we're going to alleviate frustration and we're going to experience failure less often. My biggest fear as I watch some of these businesses just like throwing out AI is you're just adding friction on top of friction. And it's even when we talk to employees about this, like their biggest concern isn't AI taking their job. It's you're going to make my life more difficult. I've got more problems now that you've added to my plate.
Sure.
You're not taking anything away from me.
Let's talk about on the back of the compounding Fs. Let's talk about recovery.
Yeah.
The report outlines a clear path forward, which is balancing trust, unifying experiences, and segmenting AI strategies by generation. From your perspective, which of these actions do you see leaders struggling with the most today? And what does it take to move from intention to execution?
Yeah, Nate, the struggle that's the greatest is unifying functional silos inside of an organization. This is not a new problem, but as one executive had shared with me as we were having some conversations about that, he said, Justin, trying to create a unified experience for our business is creating an all-out turf war. He said, we've got different departments that we recognize. They've been incentivized and the incentives compete with each other's success. And let's just think about this in a very simple way today. Say maybe you've got an organization and you've got a sales team as part of that. You've got a service or support team as part of that. You've got right, all these people. Well, sales is incentivized for one aspect of things, marketing incentivized for another thing, and then service is incentivized for another. And they're often at odds with each other. And so one of the things that they mentioned, and if I was a leader trying to deal with the struggle is what are the kind of ways that we can be building our KPIs and the ways we define and think about success so that we're ensuring one department isn't sabotaging another. Not intentionally, but that's one of the biggest challenges, how silos are incentivized. Well, then it comes down to leadership and ownership of the actual design and delivery of that experience. Because if you ask me what is customer experience, it's an outcome. And every organization has a customer experience, intentional or not. The challenge of so many organizations is their experience is an unintended consequence of whatever they're doing. And so if I was an organization and said this really matters to me, I'd say, hey, do you have an executive who is either really leading this and able to get people as part of different functional groups aligned on a shared goal? And let me, for a quick minute, talk about like this is actually a
Sure.
problem. So we say customer experience matters as a business, but we haven't actually defined what does it look like? How will we know it when we see it? And so you've got all these teams that they're moving towards their version of this, their version. And it would be no different. Right now, we're in Nashville. And if I said, hey, Nate, our mission is we need to go west. You and I are going to, and that's all, that's it. That's our great experience is to go west. You end up in Seattle. I end up in San Diego. That matters. Businesses all day, every day are heading west. And they're never clarifying that actually you and I are going to be in Union Square in San Francisco. That's the rally point. And so if I think about what's the big struggle today, we don't know the rally point. We don't know what great customer experience is. And if I talk to every individual, every leader, every frontline associate, they can't define it. They can't define where they're moving and the contribution that they need to make. And so this is foundational stuff that when we look at the report, when we look at the challenges organizations face, it really comes down to clarifying what's most important to us. Do we really know where we're moving?
I'm wondering if there was one thing from this report that was really surprising and shocking to you. What comes to mind? What's top of mind?
I'm going to do a quick two. One was certainly the trust gap. I actually didn't expect organizations to over-index as much as they do. I think part of that, Nate, is challenges with the way we think about voice of customer today, the way that we actually collect and consolidate and share an action feedback. Even this week, someone had shared a story of a previous employer of theirs that intentionally hid bad customer feedback for the executive team because they just didn't care to do anything about it.
Oh man.
And it's like an executive attitude that is just sabotaging this business. So that to me was, not the case for everybody in the study, but I mean that's a real challenge. That surprised me because it's like why in this day and age why would you operate that way? Was a surprise. I think the other thing I'll mention, and I talked a little bit about it earlier, was with when we looked at the younger and the older groups, the older groups tolerance in some cases 5-10 minutes or more to get an issue really surprised me. And again, I think that this just like the compounding effect of decades of Lord experiences. Even in the keynote today, they were like the bar for CX is
Hello.
so low. So many organizations have an opportunity to truly stand out. It doesn't take something significant. It's just doing the little things right consistently. And so this research for me, again, the most surprising part was like, we know what we need to do to actually have impact. So what's stopping us? Why don't we do the thing that has just transformational ripple effects on employee engagement, on customer loyalty, on revenue, on churn, on risk, all of these things that really matter? They're affected in the best ways if we go after some of the basic things we discovered in this study.
There's so much good in this study, and I'm wondering, in your mind, after having conducted this and put so many hours into it, who do you hope sees this report, and how do you hope them to be able to use it to overcome their business problems?
There's two groups that I think I'm most wanting to lean into what's happening here. And the first, and I'm talking to you right now, sitting there. The first group for me really are executive leaders who right now just maybe don't invite, look to the people inside of their service support, their CX functions today. Don't look to them as truly strategic business allies. Because one of the things we saw loud and clear as I looked to the different groups who took this study, service leaders, people who are at the edge of this, they know it, they feel it, they live it every day, and they don't feel like their voice is heard. They don't feel like their team supports them. And it started to really kind of show what this is doing to our cultures, which to me is the first place where things will really start to fall out for our businesses. So I really do hope executives take a moment to do the gut check on what is the thing that we're tolerating. Where's the place of mediocrity that we've maybe turned a blind eye to, and how can our service leader better help us understand and address it? That would be one. The second, though, really would be for the service leaders, because the other thing I heard from executives who participated in this is we don't know that they really understand the business of the business. They feel like they live in this world of NPS and CSAT and quality or whatever these things are, and they don't really know that it has a material impact. And so as you look through this report, if you're a service leader and you're saying, oh my goodness, we do have that, and here's how we think about it every day, my challenge to you would be your organization's Rosetta Stone. In other words, take the thing that you measure right now that maybe is a signal of trust, or a signal of skepticism or frustration, and maybe you measure it in a certain way. I would ask yourself, are there other parts of the organization that are talking about something similar? And how do you translate that thing you measure today into a way that it's going to have resonance and relevance with your peer in marketing or the executive that you're rolling into? That to me, I think, is the other piece of the report. How do you look at what you see in your organization and bring others into understanding what this actually means for them?
I love it. Thanks so much for unpacking that. The report is the CX Confidence Disconnect. You can find it on Sprinklr.com. I'm really, really excited to hear what our audience gleans from this report, and I really want to have you back too. But before I let you go, I want to ask you a couple of rapid fire questions. What's one CX metric that you'd ban forever?
Net Promoter Score.
Ooh, I love it. What's a CX trend you're excited about?
Ooh. So my background's in learning and development, and I love what's happening with coaching automation and quality and training. Really cool tools as we think about our workforce needing to expand their capacity. Amazing what I think is happening in the L&D space.
What's one thing business leaders should stop doing today immediately?
You should stop assuming you know what your customers want and need, and actually spend some time talking, watching, living life in their shoes.
I love it. I'm going to go back to the NPS score. Why should we get rid of it?
What? Nate, you don't know what you
Justin.
know. You don't know what you just opened up.
Bring it on.
If I think about how organizations have mistreated NPS, first off, most people use it as a boardroom patting barometer that they're not actually driving any action from. To me, a metric is only as good as the outcome that it's driving, the thing it's influencing and affecting. And as I watch most organizations address NPS, they're like, oh, the number went up or the number went down. And you don't ever really get to root cause, let alone pay any attention to the verbatims that are showing up in there. The other thing I'll mention is it's assuming that people are going and wanting and needing to be promoters of your brand. I can give you a ton of examples of people that I've talked to. They're like, yeah, I like it, but no, I'd never share this with a friend or family member. I'm just not wired that way. So there's flaws there. Then let's talk about the scale. Most people don't understand or interpret the scale, and there's so much kind of meat and opportunity that can be unpacked in what's going on in the middle. Nate, I could go on for this for days, but there's so many other meaningful ways that we can define and be predictive and proactive about business outcomes. NPS is just not the one that we're able to best action and drive results from.
I love it. And I love you ruffling feathers. So many feathers are ruffled.
Good.
Yeah, I love it.
Be uncomfortable.
Justin Robbins, my friend, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for this really, really exciting report. The hours that you poured into it, we really, really appreciate it. And we know it's going to be really, really impactful. Thank you for making us all a little CX wiser, my friend.
Nate, thanks for having me on today.
Thanks, man.